So the Michael Jackson biopic film has gone through its fair share of behind the scenes fucking chaos. It was supposed to come out this year, and it was delayed several times before it was delayed till next year. It's coming out April of next year as a two-part biopic instead of a one-part. But it seems like that might not even be the case. Honestly, with the way the production of this film was going, I would be surprised if we see this in April of next year. It looks like we might not even get to see this film at all because the production of this film has been just a fucking bizarre mess. Because apparently there was an actual finished cut, or at least an early cut, which was like 3 hours. And it was all finished. Everyone agreed on it, except there was one small problem. So apparently in 1994, one of the kids that accused Michael Jackson of pretty much like molestation, there was a lawsuit, and they came to a settlement which was like around $20 million, and that was it. Like essentially, that was like the end of the settlement. However, I guess no one in the production of the film. This is kind of fucking wild. Somehow, Michael's estate, Michael's legal team, or whoever, I'm sure there has to be a legal team at Michael's estate. Somehow, everyone involved in this project did not know that the one of the stipulations of that trial, or that lawsuit settlement, whatever you want to call it, was that Jordan Chandler could not be in this film, and they had filmed specifically Jordan Chandler to be in this film. So because of that, they had to completely scrap that film because I don't know how much he was in the film, but I guess he was in it enough that they figured they just couldn't use it. I guess it was the fact that he was in it to begin with that they just couldn't. Although I don't know, like, could they not have just? I just can't see if this was a 3 hour film. I just can't imagine that they couldn't have just cut him out and now have been the end of it. But I'm sure there was a lot more legal reasons. I feel like if they could have done it, they would have done it. So I think there probably was a lot more going on than that. But nonetheless, they had to scrap that version. So the 3.5 hour version that they did have was out the fucking window. And ever since then, it seems like it has just been fucking chaos behind the scenes of the fucking family, the estate, the director. I didn't even know this, but the director, and I fucking have butchered his name every time I try to pronounce it. Antoine Fuqua, which I am absolutely certain I have butchered every part of that name. But he is the director of Training Day and the Equalizer films, and he also did a film called Shooter with Liam Neeson a while ago, which is kind of crazy. I feel like it's an interesting choice to have the director of Training Day and the Equalizer films to direct a Michael Jackson film. But I mean, hey, it's not like we've seen interesting overlaps like that before, where we've had directors known for a specific genre go into a completely different one. But it's a choice for sure. But one of the more recent, I wouldn't even say controversies, but kind of big news events that's happened with the Michael Jackson film is involving Paris Jackson and Coleman Domingo. Because Coleman Domingo, he plays Joe Jackson in the film, and he made a comment saying how he was happy that Paris Jackson, who is Michael Jackson's daughter, that she was involved in the making of the film, and it was nice to have her input in it. And Paris Jackson took to the internet, took to Instagram and her social media, and said, "Oh yeah, funny story about that. I had no involvement with this film. On top of that, I don't want any involvement with this film." And she said that she read a rough draft of the script, and essentially she said it was like a pretty much like a sugar coated version of it. Like it was like a fucking just fantasy. It was just pretty much having no actual. I wouldn't even say just like negatively portraying Michael, but like it was like a very hyper idealized, corporatized take of Michael Jackson in his life, and she was just like, "I want no part of it." And I feel like that her comments are kind of a highlight of why it is very difficult to make a Michael Jackson film. Because honestly, I don't think, just speaking from just a creative, uh, from a creative aspect, I don't think Michael Jackson's life is like that. I don't think he's like an unfilmable person. I think it would be better if you focus on a specific part of Michael's life. Like if you're going to focus on the Jackson 5 era, if you're going to focus on when he just became like a solo artist, like I think it'd be better to focus on like a specific time frame in Michael's life. But I don't think it's like very difficult for you to like. I think it really Michael's life would be better as a show. Like I think having like a mini series of Michael's life would be better than a film because I just think there is a lot you would have to condense and cram into like even like a 2 hour film. Like their original film was like 3.5 hours, which I mean, yeah, that's a bit. I'm gonna be honest, that's a fucking long film. But I mean, concerns Michael Jackson, like the 50 years of history to fucking condense into that. Like I think the fact that they had only a 3 hour cut is actually kind of impressive. Like I could easily see a 4 or 5 hour version of a Michael Jackson film. But I don't think that like it's a case of creative issues. I think it's more of, and I don't think it is more of a controlling aspect from Michael's estate and his family. Because the one thing that I have noticed and I have even learned about Michael's estate for the last few years is that they are hyper, very protective of Michael's image, his likeness, and anything and everything to do with Michael Jackson, which I mean is understandable considering he's one of the most iconic and influential entertainers of all time. You definitely want to protect his image and you want to have his image held in a certain regard. And also considering, the child molestation charges and accusations and even today like that's the one thing that Michael's legacy will always have a fucking black mark on it is the child molestation accusations because there's always going to be people who think that he was guilty. There's always going to be those people out there who think that no matter what you tell them, no matter what the court cases how they were resolved, there's always going to be people who think that he was guilty, that he was a systemic pedophile who raped children, molested children, was attracted to children. That's always going to be a stigma and a fucking black mark on Michael's estate. And Michael's estate knows that. Like Michael's family knows that. His estate knows that. So I think that's why also they're so hyper protective and so hyper just overly controlling about everything to do with like any type of film or show because they know that they want to kind of protect Michael's image from that. I mean, especially considering a few years ago when that Leaving Neverland documentary came out and that opened up the age old Michael Jackson child molestation accusations because it was one of those things where Michael's child molestation charges it's kind of a weird timeline because it was a really major deal when it happened, and then it kind of died out years following, and then he died in '09. But then after Michael's death, like years after, the Me Too movement got momentum and developed, and then that became a major thing. And then when the Leaving Neverland documentary came out, it came out like really in the peak era of the Me Too. People coming out with their sexual abuse stories and experiences. And Michael Jackson, I'm gonna be honest, he was a fucking target of that. Like he was as big of a target of that, even though he'd been dead for fucking I think at that point, a fucking decade. Even though he'd been long dead by that point, he was still a fucking prime target for that. And of course, he was in that Leaving Neverland documentary. And that opened up a whole, debate about, was Michael Jackson innocent? Was he guilty? Was he actually guilty of it and he just paid people off? Because I mean, that is a thing that Michael that is a thing that Michael Jackson you just can't get past that. The fact that he did settle. I mean, the Jordan Chandler thing. The reason they had to redo the movie. I mean, he settled for $20 million, and I mean the argument, and it makes sense because I forgot what I was watching. It was a documentary. I think it was a manager. It was someone close to Michael, where they explained it as Michael saw it as like I got the money. I wanted to just, pay it off and be done with it. And I'm like, I get that, but like at the same time, it don't look good. Like it don't look good when you're spending like, millions, 20 to 30 to 40 million to just pretty much like silence or not silence. That sounds kind of fucking more like mobster like, but to kind of sweep it under the rug. Like, okay, I'm gonna give you this money and we're going to have a mutual understanding that we're not going to talk about this anymore. This is not going to be a thing anymore. While I get the argument of, well, it was Michael Jackson, he had fucking an endless amount of money. He had like essentially God money. He could spend as much as he wanted to or needed to, and for him it wasn't a big deal. It's like, yeah, but at the same time, the optics of it don't look good, and it don't look good now. Like it don't look good that you spent that much money for these settlements to just kind of sweep them under the rug. Like it don't look good no matter what your take is, it's just not a good look. Um, so there is that too. That is just something of a hurdle that just cannot be overlooked and has been brought up before. Um, so like that is an issue with that is an issue with Michael Jackson's legacy because that I mean that on its own is a problem, but it's the fact that you have that, and I feel it honestly. I feel like, and I know it's just me not really being, I'm sure them being his family, obviously naturally they are a lot more protective and probably don't want that to be as front and center, which it kind of makes me surprised. It makes me wonder how like considering how protective they are of Michael's image and like not wanting to kind of address that or have that be a center point. It kind of is. It kind of makes me wonder how exactly did they implement this Jordan Chandler deal? Because how I don't know how they added him in there and his estate was fine with it and then found out later from the settlement that he could not be in there. I do wonder exactly how was that going to be portrayed in the film. I would actually kind of like to see a cut of the film just to see how that was put in the film in a way that Michael's estate and his family agreed was okay. I think that's actually kind of, I didn't even think about that though. That's actually kind of an interesting thing to think about. But what I was gonna say is, I don't think that I don't think it's impossible to make a film that just doesn't become like a fucking smear campaign against Michael Jackson. In having the child molestation accusations and the trials included. Really, I think it would be better. I think it's better to just address it and have it there than to try to fucking act like it never happened and it was just not a thing. Because it was. I mean, it was a big part of Michael Jackson's life at that point. I mean, and it became. I mean, fuck, it became really like a running joke of him. Even way before he died, I forgot the movie. I saw no Date movie. I saw a date movie a few weeks ago, and there's a background gag of Michael Jackson being into this little boy and then getting the fuck me of him by the mom in a fucking alley. It became like it became a pretty big part of Michael Jackson's notoriety after it happened, and it still is. So you can't. I don't think you can just ignore it and act like this never happened or like it was downplayed to being something that it wasn't, because it was. It was a big fucking deal with Michael Jackson. It still is. So I don't think you. I don't, and I don't even think it would be just a negative thing to have it in. I think it would actually be a good thing to just have it there and be like, yeah, this is what happened. This is how it was resolved and how it concluded, and just have it there. I don't think you need to just linger and hyper focus on it like it's a fucking courtroom drama like inherit the win or some shit, or like 12 Angry Men. But just have it there, just have it there and then keep going. But also with Michael, besides the child molestation accusations and all that shit, there's also the drug problem of the very rampant drug use he had and drug abuse he had, which led to him dying when he did. And I'm sure Michael's family probably don't want that to be out there too, of him him also being a fucking drug addict, being addicted to cosmetic surgery, plastic surgery. There's a lot of not so savory aspects and qualities of Michael Jackson. And I'm not saying inherently just bad, but just negative things, from the drug use, for example. But honestly, again, I know from his family's perspective that they just don't want that to be in, because they know how Michael, they know how Michael is perceived to some degree to the public, and they don't want to kind of circulate that out there. But at the same time, I don't know, like, I think it would just be better to just have it there, just embrace it, I think it would be better. My thing is, and I have this for every person, because I do not like biopics. I don't like movies about really any famous person or anyone to begin with. Because I just don't think, I just can't suspend my disbelief to believing any actor, no matter how good they are. I can't suspend my belief that is that person, because I know you're not that person. I know every conversation you're having probably didn't happen. Every event that happens in this film probably didn't happen the way it did. I know that the people in this film either didn't exist or they didn't have this type of conversation or interaction. Like, I just every aspect of the film, I just cannot suspend my belief to believe that any of this actually happened. So that's where I'm at. Where I just am not a fan of them to begin with. But I feel like if you're gonna do a biopic, especially of someone of Michael Jackson's caliber, just take the goat to bed. Michael Jackson, even today, like even with all this shit, the drug abuse, the fucking child molestation, you know, accusations, the fucking plastic surgery, the fucking Dorito nose, like it's even with all that, he is still regarded as one of the most popular and influential and iconic entertainers. I'd say people, fuck that, just people in general. Like, he is one of the most famous people to ever exist. I don't think that's a hot take to say that. Like, Michael Jackson is still one of the most famous people to ever exist and is still one of the most universally beloved people. Like, I mean, that's the thing. Like, Michael Jackson, he has his fair share of detractors. I mean, there's a fucking ton of them out there. There's a lot of people who don't like Michael Jackson or they like his music, but they still think that he was an awful person or a fucking weird person. And I will concede that Michael, for no matter what you think of the guy, he was a weird guy. Like, Michael Jackson, he was a very strange person. I don't think anyone, even the most diehard Michael Jackson fan, will disagree with the fact that Michael was a very strange person, which also kind of lends itself to people believing, well, he probably was into some fucking weird shit too. It's just one of those things. Like, it just unfortunately goes hand in hand when you're someone that's just as out there as Michael was, especially when you look like he did for most of his life. You just kind of lend yourself to being open to people thinking, oh yeah, you probably were in the fucking wanting to be obsessed sexually with children, and it didn't help that he had fucking Neverland Ranch and all that shit and the fucking animals and all that. It didn't help didn't help the accusations. But even with all that, Michael Jackson, he's still one of the most iconic entertainers of all time. And I don't think that a film coming out is, going into any of those negative, aspects of his life or qualities. It's a bad thing. Like, I mean, because I was thinking about this earlier. I was talking to someone earlier about this, about how, like Michael Jackson, his death, I would say, was probably, I mean, recent. I guess it is still recent, the last 20 years. Like, I remember when his death happened, like, it was one of the biggest phenomenons to happen. Like, I know there's been so much shit that's happened since he's died, but, like, I remember, like, when he died, like, that was in '09. Like, social media was not really a thing back then. Like, and I remember when it broke on the news that he was at the hospital, unconscious at the time. I remember just the aerial shots of it looked ironically like a fucking concert. The amount of fucking people that showed up back in '09. Like, keep in mind, '09 back, I mean, this wasn't, the fucking 50s or 60s, but, there wasn't the 24-hour instant news cycle that we got now where, like, something happens, like, right now, right now, automatically what's going on. Back then, you really didn't have that. You had to rely on the news. Like, there were phones and smartphones, but they were nothing like we had now. And even despite all that, like, there was just, I don't know how many fucking people outside of UCLA, just wanting to see what was going to happen with Michael Jackson. Like, it was an insane fucking event. Like, even when he died, like, it wasn't a national deal. It was a fucking international deal. Like, I remember they were showing like people in China and fucking like every part of the world that had some fucking form of electricity. there was like a reaction of them, like it was almost as if Michael Jackson was like a fucking world leader, or not even a world leader, even like he was like a multi-world leader, like he was like the leader of the fucking UN or some shit. Like it was a big fucking deal, and even the years following it was a major fucking deal with the Conrad Murray trial and all that shit. Like it took over pretty much the entire like news cycle for years. I mean, to the point where, I mean, I'm a big Michael Jackson fan. I've always been a Michael Jackson fan, but even I was like, God fucking damn it, man! Like enough's enough, man. Like I get it, we can go a week without having something in the news about Conrad Murray or Michael Jackson, and then they kept reusing the same fucking clip from the last rehearsal he had. Like it just became fucking overbearing. But even now, 15 plus years later, like people still look fondly on Michael Jackson. They still love him. They still look up to him. They still, give him praise for being one of the biggest entertainers of all time. So, like, I do feel like he does deserve to have a film, a good film. And a film that portrays him, I would say, as good as you can. I mean, it's Hollywood. No one's ever going to be portrayed even I'd say 70-80% accurately, but like a film that at least is a good film. Because honestly, that's where I've kind of come to when it comes to like biopics and films like that. Is like we're not gonna. I don't go to these films to see like a fucking History Channel biopic to like learn about these people. I just enjoy the film. And as long as you make an enjoyable film, man, I think that's the best you can ask for. Because I don't think anyone's going to come out or is going to go in or come out of any biopic of any person, musician, politician, whoever, and have this just abundance of wealth of knowledge of that person that's just completely not fucking fabricated, that they did not have before, are going to care about that. They're going to, most people. I'm a challenge most people to say that they do not go into a biopic, even if they don't know the person, interested in learning about that person. They're interested about a good movie. If it's a good movie, they don't go fuck what if it's completely horseshit what's in the film about what happened. It's a good movie. Like I think most people would take a good movie that was just pretty much a work of fiction that was nothing to do with the person's real life. Might as well just be a completely different person. Then I have a film that's kept honest to that person, that's a fucking slog fest, and people just don't like. Like, people, because again, people go to movies to be entertained, not to be fucking just educated about anything, really. They go for a good movie, a good time. So, really, having a good Michael Jackson film with some music, some good dancing, a 90-minute film, you could, go over, the highlights of his life. I think it'd be good, I mean, also, the budget for this film is like in like the 50s, like it's like $50 million. Doesn't have like a big budget, but at the same time, I don't think it really needs a big budget considering the estate's like funding. Like, really, when you make a Michael Jackson film, if it was not his estate involved, I think this film would probably need a fucking colossal budget, just because the rights to like use his like image and likeness and music and all that, it would probably be fucking just astronomical at that point. So, like, at least they got that going for them, where they can, use the music and all that, and they just they have a pretty low budget. So, like, I don't think that even if this film bombs, it's going to be just like a fucking historic failure at the box office. I think at best it'll just be lukewarm, and at worst, it's kind of bad. But I don't see it as being just like a fucking historic bomb or anything like that. But we're gonna have to see though. We're gonna have to see. I mean, honestly, I think we're gonna have to see if we even see this film, because I mean, with the way it's looking, like April next year seems to be when they're looking to have this be released. But it seems like we're getting towards the end of this year, and I mean, April sounds like a ways away, but I mean, it'll be here before you know it. And I mean, they've postponed this film several times this year, and then they not only postponed it till next year, then they broke the film up into two fucking parts. So I mean, by this point, or at this point, by fucking January, we might be looking at a 3 or 4 part fucking miniseries that they'll like slap on HBO in like June at this point. But we'll have to see though. We'll have to see when and if we get this biopic, and I'll be curious to see what it looks like when it comes out, or if, assuming it does come out. But with that said, I think I'm going to call it a day here. Let me know what you guys think. If you're interested in a Michael Jackson biopic, if you think it's going to come out, if you really have no interest in it. Either way, I'm interested in what you guys think about it. But with that said, I am going to see you good people later.